Hello, this is Esotic, and this is the OpenTZT video Quickstart tutorial. This tutorial is basically meant for anyone who doesn't know anything about OpenTZT, how to get them up and running. Just get familiar with what the program's capable of. If you already know OpenTZT, you could probably skip this. There may be a little bit of something here and there that's going to communicate some information you don't know already, but more than likely not. So there should be some links underneath the video on Vimeo that are going to show you the files you need to download. I'm going to assume that you have downloaded those files already, but I will walk you through some of the prerequisites of what needs to happen before we get started. You will need to unzip the OpenTZT release directory, and you'll see here I unzip this and it's on my desktop, and I am using the 1506 release, which was the last one that I created, and I haven't heard any real serious bugs about it, and that was like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, so we'll assume that it's stable enough. The one caveat is that Flash files are not working anymore because QuickTime removed Flash support, and we were using QuickTime to render the Flash files. So here we have our OpenTZT release directory. What you'll also need to do is open up the Quickstart tutorial. I'm opening mine in WinRAR. And you're going to need to move the record and the material directories. You need to copy those into here. And I've already done that, and so I'm just going to say yes to all, and it'll recopy all that stuff. And then these are the files we're going to be using as part of the tutorial, just to get us started. I'll go ahead and close that. We will need to be using 16-bit color depth on our monitor, and I'm going to demonstrate what happens when you don't use 16-bit color depth. So if I try to run the software, it's going to do some of its initialization, and then it's going to give me this window that says OpenTZT prefers 16-bit color. You can run it 32-bit color if you want, but some things will not work, and it will be weird, and you won't know why. So let's just not even go there. We're going to change our color depth. Go into the properties on your desktop, settings, 16-bit, apply, and you will need to apply 16-bit color for all your desktops. So if you're running a dual monitor setup with an output window, you'll need to change that to the 16-bit as well. You'll see a performance degradation trying to convert from the 16 to the 32, and that's not what we want. We want some nice high frames per second. Alright, so let's start with the TZT Manager. This is the main little bit that kind of gets it all set up and ready to go. And a lot of these settings are just kind of standard settings. Raise TZT process priority. You can use that. You may or may not see a difference. Write debug.txt file. You can just turn this off. This is mainly just for developers. Or if you have a bug that you can recreate and you contact us, we may ask you to generate the debug.txt file and send it to us. Run TZT in windowed mode. We're going to do that just for the purposes of this demonstration. If you're running it for a live event of some sort, you may want to run it full screen. That's up to you. We're not going to run dual monitor just for the purposes of the demonstration. We're not going to enable the clone window. These are ways to get output to another monitor during a live event. DirectX Direct Draw Emulation mode. I'm going to leave this off because I'm on a desktop system, and I haven't had experience where this really helps on a desktop. If you're on a laptop, it may help you. It moves some of the DirectX into hardware emulation mode, which runs in the CPU, and depending on your graphics subsystem, you may notice a performance increase by checking that. VSync is pretty much, I almost always disable it like you would in any video game. Enable AVI record function allows you to record AVIs. We're not really going to get on that in this tutorial, but it's there if you want to play with that. I think we'll cover it probably in a later tutorial. Enable QuickTime. This used to allow playback of Flash videos. If you can find a version of QuickTime before they removed Flash support, then you can use that and you can render Flash in OTZT. And then there's some other stuff in here. Default beats per minute, maximum frames per second, and then position for the clone window, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we got all that set up. Let's go ahead and launch the program. Okay, so this is our interface. Just to give you a quick teaser, I'm going to load a preset. And that's what it looks like. These are basically just stills. There's no video here. Just to try to keep the distribution file light and easy to manage. So, okay, we can do this. Now, how do we actually make something like this happen? Alright, well, let's go ahead and I'm going to clear this stuff out of here. And we're going to start from scratch, and we're going to build what we were just looking at, or pretty close to it. So this is the blank slate. As you can see, we have materials up here, and then we've got some effectors down here, and we have we call these players 1, 2, and 3. And then these are two different buses. This is the A bus and the B bus. A bus and B bus is kind of a just standard videography, video production realm lingo term for having your bus, which is a bunch of images and they all kind of go together. And they blend together and they create an output. So we are on the A bus, and you can select different players by pushing the arrow keys. That's the left arrow, down arrow, right arrow. You can select 2 at a time by pushing the different keys. Select all 3 at a time. You can control them all collectively or individually. So let's just start controlling these things individually. So we want to play something. Let's load a file in there. So I'm going to click the W key. The W key just so happens to be the image that's underneath W, and it's in this bank here, this F folder inside of bank 0. You can have multiple banks. We didn't talk about that. That's actually covered under content tutorial. So there we go. We loaded a little bit of something there. Loaded a media clip into the player. Now I want to load another one into this player. And, well, hey, what's going on there? I can't see anything. So if you want to be able to see something, you would push a blend mode. And this is how you blend these together. And we'll cover that a little bit later. So if you have, let me just clear that. So this is playing a generator, which is the DLL that exports synthesized video. And I'm going to set the text for this to be OpenTZT. And then I'm going to hit the button and load it again. So there we go. We have TZT. Now, if we wanted to change the speed that the clip renders, if this were a video, it would be the playback speed. You can do that using the shift key. There's a right and a left shift, and they work differently. The right shift and the number buttons above your QWERTY at the top there control your playback speed. The right shift is positive values, and the left shift is negative values. And it can go really slow, and it can go really fast. Okay, so that's how you control clip speed. Let's look at the capture. So underneath the F, we have this looks like a little camera, doesn't it? And this is the capture that I've set up, and you can see the capture. This is the live feed from the camera, and it's going into the output right here. And you can there's also something called a through, which is this guy. And what that does is that takes the output from the previous player and uses it in the current player. So if I put the through on there, this is going to look the same. You don't see a difference. And you can make that guy if you wanted. Through is good for saving some CPU cycles. If you wanted to use the previous player's output to, run another effect on it. Say you want to run 3 effects on one clip. Well, you can't do that in one player, but you can use 2 players to do that. I'm going to clear that, and that guy's just sitting there. So let's see, we've got media. We selected it, player speed, capture, setting the through. Now we're going to look at some blend options a little bit more in depth. So here we got our color bars. What can we do with those? Well, we can use blending, and blend lives under U all the way over to the backslash. And so U is plain, which means it's like the source alpha that overrides whatever's coming in before it. I is add, it's an additive blend. O is subtractive blend. P is an alpha blend, which is kind of more your standard, how much of this one versus that one. If you can see here, I'm changing the fader value for the blend mode, and that is also with your number keys. But there's no controller key. There's no shift. You don't push that. You just push the numbers, and that's how you change the alpha value, the blend value for the blend mode. I hope I said that right. So there's alpha, there's multiply, there's difference. You can pick the amount of difference with the parameter adjuster, the blend alpha adjuster. And then there's the maximum, which takes the maximum value of every pixel, adds them together. And then if you hold down the shift button, these same keys have different blend modes that live under them. Shift U is a color key. We're not getting a whole lot off of that right now, but it also has an alpha value. And that alpha value is, it's not a green screen, it's more of a black screen. Shift I is lighten, kind of like additive, but a little bit less. Shift O is darken, same, it's kind of like sub, but a little bit less. Screen. Moonlight, which is a lighter version of multiply, which I actually tend to prefer usually. Shift right bracket is luminous, and that's a luminous blend. And then we have a min blend, which takes the minimum value of each pixel, and that's what it uses for the output. So those are our blending modes, and blending modes are pretty standard. You'll use them quite a bit. So let's just leave that the way it is. So we got a little blend mode set up there. And now we would like to maybe work with some effects. So down here we have our effects, and if we wanted to load an effect into a player, we would hold down the control key. Let's say this is the right control and this is for the right effector. Each player has 2 effectors. There's the right effector and the left effector. So I'm going to load a kaleidoscope, which is control G, into this side, and then I'm going to load a roto zoom, which is under control Y for the left side, the right effector, I'm sorry. And we're not seeing a whole lot right now, and maybe it's because of it's probably our blend mode, but it's also the fact that we chose that guy there. So let's put that guy, let's switch these. So we're going to put the color bars under player 1, and then the generator under player 2, and then we have something that looks kind of like that. Let's try, that's just the straight kaleidoscope. Let's put this kaleidoscope first. Actually, no, let's put the tunnel first and the kaleidoscope second. And we get something like this. So we have banks. This is something we didn't talk about. We don't have, I'm pushing the F keys now, F1, F2, F3, and it might be hard to see in the video, but you can kind of see the bank shifting up here. That's controlling the materials. I don't have any materials in my F2 bank, so you don't see anything when I go there. But if I was going to hold down Control and push the F key, then I would be looking at changing the bank down here. The folder for the effectors, and I do have some other effectors in here that I can get access to. So I could change this to a flash, which is, that's kind of annoying. Now let's go with a glow, and that sort of makes it a little fuzzy. And there's some 3D style effects in here that you can play with. That's an alpha blur, which is kind of fun. So Control and the F keys get you around the folders for the different effects, and then Shift and the F keys would get you around the different banks for the presets. We only have one bank's worth of presets at this point. So let's talk a little bit about presets. We have a bus with some things in it, and we're blending some things together. And okay, let's say I want to save this for later. I want to save this preset. Everything that's in this bus, I want it to go somewhere so I can recall it. So I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to push the key on the number pad. So Shift and 4, and so I just saved this preset under the 4th holder here under my preset bank folder. Now if I wanted to, I could go back and recall some of these presets that I had saved by holding the Control key and pushing the number pad. And so this is wonderfully powerful if you want to sit at home and generate some presets, and then show up at the club Saturday night and be like, yo, this is what I did this week. Bust out the new presets, test them out. I highly encourage that workflow. So we have buses. We talked a little bit about the buses earlier, but how do you manage those? Well, you can hit the tab key to change which bus you're editing, and it doesn't change which bus is playing. So if you want to start setting up something on the second bus while your A bus is sending out to the crowd and amusing them delightfully, you can do that. So that's how you decide to edit the different bus. How do you actually change which bus is playing? Well, there's a couple ways to do that. You can push the space bar, and that's just a fast cut between the two. There's also, you'll see them switching under here. This is like different fade modes from one bus to the next. The M is sort of a slow fade. The comma is a push fade. It's more like a push wipe, actually. The period is a different kind of vertical alpha wipe. And then the / is kind of a ripple wiggle wipe fade. Okay, and So now you have thoroughly rocked the crowd with your visual prowess, and it's time to go home. How do you close the program? Well, that would be Alt F4. And Alt F4 is a Windows standard. You can pretty much close any program with that. Here the TZT, the OpenTZT manager is open, and I'm going to hit Control F4 and it's going to close. And that is going to wrap up our Quickstart tutorial. I hope it was informative, and thank you for listening.